Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I'm sharing this hidden bookmark card featuring Waffle Flowers, A Little Help, Rubbernecker stamps, fall twig background, and my favorite things are story. For this card, there is a disclaimer. I have to create 2 times everything that I'm doing. I'll have 2 A2 card panels, but I'll be only showing my steps on one because it's just going to be repetitive, and I'll point out the differences between the two. To start off, I am just marking off my bookmark for my A2 card panel, and this all depends on what images you are using. And so I already had laid out my layout, and I knew that I wanted this size bookmark. So it just really depends on how you want the images to look on your book. For my bookmark, I wanted this stack of books that the cat is sleeping on with the cat peeking out from the book at the very bottom of my bookmark, and then I'm going to be masking and adding more and more books for that stack that the cat is sitting on. So I'm starting off with all the images that I can go ahead and stamp out. It kind of fills up the bottom space of the card. I will repeat the steps because we are creating 2 of the same panels, and this is where the Misty comes in handy. I'm also doing a bit of masking because I wanted to create that stack of books. It will overlap near the cat that's peeking out from the book at the bottom, so I want to make sure that I mask him as well when I stamp the books right over him. Of course, with masking, you always want the image that you want out in front masked off first, and then you stamp the images that you want behind. I also mark off part of the card panel, basically creating a floor, and then I'm just going to be ink blending my background. I am using Victorian velvet, which is a very light rusty pink. I don't use it very often, but I decided that this was a good color since I'm coloring the books in rainbow color. So I'm just inking up the background and make sure that you have everything masked. I didn't want the background to be too plain, so I decided to use the Rubbernecker's fall twig background. I'm using a very light pink with this and stamping it just for a tone on tone, very subtle background. And for my second panel, I'm only coloring in the area of where my bookmark is because the rest of it won't show up. I will be cutting it off, so you definitely don't have to color that up. And then for the ground portion, I just used a brown, kind of like hardwood floors, but I'm not adding that texture since I have that texture on the walls. So I'm going in with my Copic markers to color the books. I'm only showing some of the books because I'll be coloring it in the same way. I'm using 3 Copic markers for all the colors, and for the books, I'm just creating dimension by adding the darker shades on the top and the bottom of the book. I'm going in with my middle color just to add a little bit more color, and then I'll color in the rest of the book with my lightest color, and that will be the highlight of the book, so it will be on the spine. And so as I'm coloring, you can see that there is white space right in the middle, and that's how I create some depth with the book. It makes it look like it is rounded on the spine and the light is hitting it. I'll be coloring this in rainbow colors because I honestly hate coloring books, especially a large amount of them on a card, because I always pick random colors and then I kind of pick colors that kind of overlap, and rainbow colors just was the easiest way for me to go about coloring this. I'm coloring it the exact same way on both cards, and you'll notice that one card is focused mainly where the bookmark will be, which is the middle of the panel, and then the other images don't really matter, so I won't be masking any of that off while I'm coloring or even coloring it at all. Then I'll go in with a silver and gold pen just to color in the little lines on the books because I just didn't want to pick another color. It was just way easier to go in with a pen and color them up, and it's so subtle, but it does add a bit shine, so I kind of like that. I think the gold is a little bit more subtle than the silver, which is surprising because usually gold pens kind of stand out a little bit more, but I feel like the silver is a little bit more shiny. I then will go in and color the rest of the kittens, and I wanted to do different colors for them. So one will be an orange tabby cat, another one will be this warm gray cat, and then the one that's sitting on top of the book stack will be brown gray cat. I just wanted them to be solid colors. I thought about like adding extra texture, but there's so much going on in this background with all the book colors that I decided just to go with solid colors. But of course you can color the kitties any color you want. And I really adore that cat that's reading the book. He looks so studious and it's so adorable. For the card panel that's going to be the main bookmark, I don't color in any of the books at the bottom of my card panel because I just don't need to. And then I'm going in with a ruler just to draw my line to separate the wall and the floor. And I decided to go in with my Copic markers, kind of matching the walnut stain distress ink that I ink blended the bottom panel with. And mainly it's because it looked a little flat. I wanted to create a little bit of depth. I wanted to ground it and make it look like that stack of books was in the back and the cat that's reading is up front. And I think that usually with images, I tend to ground them because they kind of look like they're floating and it doesn't create that depth and dimension. So I always tend to ground my images, and I usually just use a color that's very similar to the color in the background or the ground that I'm using. For my panel with the bookmark, I'm just going to go ahead and mark them off. I went in with pencil just to make sure I know exactly where I'm cutting for my bookmark. And for this particular bookmark, it is 1.25 inches on each side and then 1.5 inches from the bottom. So I don't really remember what the dimension of the actual bookmark is, but I just kept with that in mind with the 1.25 inches on each side and then 1.5 inches from the bottom. Definitely use a pencil. You can erase it lightly. If you erase distress inks, it kind of picks up the color, so you want to be very light with your pencil markings. And I'm using my Fiskars trimmer to carefully trim out my bookmark. And it's super helpful with the Fiskars trimmer because you can see exactly where you're cutting. Like if you're using a guillotine trimmer, you wouldn't be able to do this. With the Fiskars trimmer is very handy for this specific reason because you can stop it cutting at a certain point, and then you can like pick it up and then see where you're cutting because of the wire string that's there. I'm moving on with just popping up my panel. This will be popped up because I want to leave enough space to put in a bookmark. And the idea is that you give this to a friend and they get a card, which is great. And if they are a reader, bookworm, they'll be able to pull out the bookmark and use it for their bookmarks. So I think it's really cool. I'll pop this up on just a plain A2 card panel, and then I'll use the other piece and just insert it right in, and that will be lower. That will not have foam tape on it, so it lays flat, and then you can insert your other bookmark into your card panel. The way that I'm gonna keep the bookmark in place so it doesn't fall out is actually just stamp and cut out a sentiment and place it right over that area where the bookmark sits. Once you have your sentiment ready, I put double-sided adhesive only on the ends of the sentiment so it doesn't have any adhesive in the middle because you want to be able to pull that bookmark out. You'll remove your bookmark, you'll still have your card, you'll have a bookmark, and that is today's card. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time with another one. Bye!